This married woman had four lovers at the same time and was somehow able to convince one of her lovers to kill her husband. Let's talk about what happened to 36-year-old Antonio Navarro Cerdan. Antonio was born on June 12, 1981 in Spain, and when he was 30 years old, he met 21-year-old Maria Jesus Canto, also known as Maje. Now, Maje came from a very different background. She came from more of a religious and strict household. When she was little, she wasn't really around boys, so as she started to get older and just gain more independence, her friends said that she started to become more vain and was just very flirty. So on the surface, she seemed like a very sweet and kind girl, but deep down, she had a very dark side to her. Antonio was just very happy to be dating Maje. He just absolutely adored her, but after 3 years of dating, they actually broke up over a financial disagreement. Now, Antonio's family was so happy about this. They were like, thank God you guys broke up. Like, we were not a fan of Maje. There was just something dark and just dishonest about her. However, some time after the breakup, Maje was able to convince Antonio to get back together. Of course, Antonio's family was not happy about this. They were so happy that she was out of their lives and they didn't want her to get back in with him. However, Antonio told his family that he just adored Maje, that he just couldn't imagine his life without her. So they got back together, but Antonio didn't know that Maje was actually unfaithful to him. While in a relationship with Antonio, Maje also began a relationship with a co-worker, 44-year-old Salvador. Now, Maje was a nurse and Salvador worked at the hospital she worked at, and he was actually married and had a child. Now, Salvador knew that Maria was married, but he didn't care. He just loved her so much and was just so happy at the fact that this young, beautiful woman was paying attention to him. Antonio had no idea that Maje was being unfaithful to him, and he actually proposed to her, and she said yes. She even told Salvador, her lover, hey, I'm getting married, and Salvador was like, great, no problem by me. I still love you, and I'm still gonna be here for you. So when Maje was getting ready for her wedding with Antonio and also balancing her affair with Salvador, she began yet another affair. Yes, now she had two lovers. This time, she met a physiotherapist named Tomas, and she told her other lover, Salvador, about this new lover, and Salvador was like, it's okay, it's fine, like, it's just like a one-night fling, but it wasn't. Now, this lover bubble eventually popped in 2016 because Antonio ended up finding romantic messages between Maje and Tomas. He confronted her about this, and he broke off their engagement. He packed her bags, packed up all her stuff, left it at the front door, and told her that he never wanted to see her again. She was trying to think of a way to get back together with Antonio, but in the meantime, she decided to have another lover. So yeah, she had Salvador, she had Tomas, and now she had another co-worker named Manuel. So while she was trying to balance these three men that didn't know about each other, she was also trying to convince Antonio to get back together, and somehow it worked. They got back together and they resumed their plans for their wedding. In June of 2016, Maje and Antonio bought an apartment together, and they were just so happy for their new future. They had this new apartment, they had their upcoming wedding, and Antonio thought that they were truly in love and truly happy. On September 3rd, 2016, Maje and Antonio had their wedding day, and in all of the wedding photos, Antonio just looked so happy and just so proud to have Maje as his wife. The two headed over to Cancun for their honeymoon, and when they returned, Antonio was just so happy to finally be a married man. He was ready for this new chapter in their lives, but Maje wasn't. As soon as they returned back to their normal life, Maje continued to see her lovers. Since Maje was a nurse, she would use the night shifts as an excuse to get away and see her lovers or to meet new ones, because in May of 2017, Maje was out with one of her friends, and this is when she met another man whom she began to have an affair with. Yes, she now had 4 lovers and a husband. Now, this affair she really wanted. She met a publicist named Jose Antonio, and unlike the others, she kept her marriage and all of her other lovers a secret from him. She really liked him, and she wanted him to believe that she was this single woman and that she was the love of his life, and of course didn't want to share that she was married and scare him off. At this point, Maje was done with her marriage to Antonio. She just wanted to be with Jose fully, but she couldn't leave him. She lived a very stable and comfortable life with Antonio. He made good money and he provided a very good life with her. She couldn't leave him and risk being left with nothing. So she had to make a plan where she could end up with Antonio's life insurance policies, end up with a widow pension, basically end up with everything without having to be with Antonio. The only way to do this was to kill her husband. But she couldn't do this alone. She decided to test the waters and see which one of her lovers would be willing to kill for her.